The air was crisp and biting, the kind of cold that seemed to seep into every layer of clothing. Snow blanketed the ground in a thick, white layer, muffling sounds and creating a serene yet eerie landscape. Tall pine trees, their branches heavy with frost, stood like silent sentinels against the bright sky. The sun barely peeked through the dense clouds, casting a dim light over the snowy expanse. Every step through the deep snow was a struggle, even for the most experienced travelers. The wind howled, whipping around with an icy breath that made it hard to see and even harder to endure. Tracks of wild animals crisscrossed the ground, but there were few signs of human life, only the occasional distant echo of frozen branches snapping under the weight of snow. In this harsh wilderness, the atmosphere was charged with tension, as if nature herself was holding her breath. This was no ordinary winter scene, this was a land where survival required bravery and quick thinking. As the scout trudged onward through the endless white, there was a sense of urgency in each movement. The world felt both beautiful and treacherous, a stark reminder of the challenges that lay ahead, a reminder that in this frozen stretch of wilderness, anything could happen. As the scout forged ahead, their figure cut a determined path through the swirling snow. Clad in warm furs and rugged boots, they were well prepared for the bitter cold. Years of experience had honed their skills, they could read the land like an open book. Every tree and rock held a story that only a seasoned scout could decipher, and today the landscape spoke of both danger and opportunity. With sharp eyes scanning the horizon, the scout remained alert for any signs of movement. They knew this terrain well, its hidden dangers, where the snow might be thin, or where ice could crack underfoot. Each step was purposeful, navigating through drifts that threatened to swallow them whole. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on their shoulders. They were not just traversing this wilderness for themselves but also for the fevered pony rider needing urgent help. The scout's heart raced not just from the cold but from a deep-seated resolve to protect those in need. Memories of past adventures filled their mind, moments of bravery that shaped who they were. With each breath, they inhaled courage and exhaled doubt, knowing that their knowledge and tenacity would be tested in ways they could not yet imagine. In this moment, they were not just a traveler, they were a beacon of hope against the unforgiving elements. Somewhere in the swirling snow, the pony rider struggled to stay upright. Their once bright eyes were clouded with fever, and their body felt weak and heavy from the illness that gripped them. The young rider, just a child, clutched a thin blanket around their shoulders as a shiver coursed through them, each gust of wind biting deeper than the last. The pony beneath them was equally exhausted, its breathing labored as it plodded through the deep drifts, desperately trying to find solid ground. Every minute felt like an eternity as they fought to stay conscious. The rider's mind wandered, flickering between fragments of memories, warm fires, laughter, and family. But in this dire moment, those cherished thoughts were overshadowed by an overwhelming sense of dread. They could feel the icy grasp of the snow closing in around them, threatening to swallow them whole. As they scanned the bleak landscape, a flicker of hope ignited when they thought of the scout, someone who might offer help and perhaps safety. The rider's heart raced at the thought of being rescued but also filled with despair as they realized how dire their situation truly was. With a determined effort, they urged their pony forward, holding on tightly and whispering words of encouragement to keep both themselves and their loyal companion moving one step at a time. As the scout pushed through the relentless snow, they caught sight of a small figure struggling in the distance. A rush of determination surged within them. The sight of the fevered pony rider, so vulnerable and alone, struck a chord deep in their heart. In that moment, the decision crystallized: they could not leave the child to face the dangers of this merciless landscape alone. Bravery often comes with risks, and this was no exception. The scout's mind raced with thoughts of what lay ahead, the possibility of encountering the Sioux war party, whose presence loomed like a dark cloud over their mission. Yet, the image of the child fighting to stay upright against the biting wind overshadowed any fear they felt. Duty called louder than danger. With each step towards the rider, the scout reminded themselves that true courage meant standing up for those who could not stand for themselves. They recalled tales from their own childhood about heroes who helped others in need, and now it was their turn to embody that spirit. As they closed the distance, A renewed sense of purpose ignited within them. This was not just a rescue but a chance to be part of something larger than themselves. The icy wind howled around them, but the warmth of compassion fueled their resolve as they prepared to reach out and offer help to the young rider. With a deep breath, the scout moved into action, making their way toward the fevered pony rider. The snow was deep, reaching past their knees with each step, creating a heavy slog that tested their strength and resolve. The wind howled like a fierce beast, stinging their skin and whipping around them as they fought to maintain focus. They could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on their shoulders. Every minute mattered. The exhausted pony rider leaned heavily against the pony's side, struggling to stay upright. The scout quickly assessed the situation, noting that they would need to create a safe way for both of them to travel. The thought of moving forward while carrying such an ill child fraught with risk made their heart race, but there was no turning back now. Carefully, the scout approached and gently lifted the child into their arms. Despite the heavy weight and the chill seeping through layers of clothing, they felt an unexpected warmth spread through them, the warmth of purpose. They adjusted their grip on the fevered rider, cradling them securely while also keeping an eye on their surroundings. As they began walking again, each step seemed to churn up new obstacles, hidden rocks beneath the snow and patches of ice waiting to trip them up. Yet, amidst these challenges, they pressed forward with determination, whispering words of encouragement not just to the child but also to themselves. This uneasy journey had just begun, but together they would face whatever lay ahead. As the scout pressed on, a shadow loomed over the landscape. In the distance, figures emerged from between the trees, their movements swift and purposeful. The scout's heart pounded as they recognized the unmistakable presence of the Sioux war party. Clad in colorful attire that contrasted sharply with the snowy backdrop, these warriors moved with an intensity that sent a chill down the scout's spine, far beyond the biting cold of winter. The air felt charged with tension, as if nature itself was holding its breath. The faint sound of jingling bells and rustling leather echoed through the stillness, accompanied by the heavy thump of boots pressing against frozen ground. Each warrior bore a spear raised high, ready for whatever intention drove them into this rugged territory. The scout could not shake off a sense of foreboding. It was clear there was more than just simple movement here. Beside them, the fevered pony rider shifted slightly in their arms. The urgency of the moment amplified as the scout's eyes darted between the approaching Sioux and the treacherous path ahead. They knew they had to act swiftly, as every heartbeat could mean life or death for both them and the child. The scout's mind raced, not only with thoughts of escape but also strategies for communication if confrontation arose. This journey became more than just survival, it was now a test of their resolve in the face of imminent danger. As the scout moved cautiously forward, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. A sharp cry rang out from the Sioux war party, cutting through the cold air like a knife. The warriors, now fully visible, formed a tight line ahead, their spears aimed in their direction, reflecting the dim light of the sun hidden behind heavy clouds. The urgency of the moment escalated as the scout realized they were cornered, with no clear path to escape. The impatient pawing of the pony beneath them echoed the rising tension, and the scout felt a rush of adrenaline. Every breath was heavy with fear and determination. The pony rider, still fevered and weak, stirred slightly but remained oblivious to the danger, clutching their blanket tightly. The scout knew they had to act quickly not just for their sake but also for the child's. With a steadying breath, they lifted their hands slowly, trying to signal peace. "We mean no harm," they called out, the words barely rising above the chilling wind. The warriors remained unmoving, their expressions unreadable beneath layers of furs and paint. The scout's heart raced as they tried to gauge the Sioux's intentions, praying for understanding in a situation fraught with peril. Each heartbeat felt like an eternity as the standoff intensified, leaving both the scout and pony rider's fate hanging in the balance. In that tense moment, the scout took a deep breath and settled their thoughts. They remembered a detail from their time in the wilderness, the importance of recognizing common ground. With this in mind, they gathered their courage and raised their voice once more, attempting to communicate. "We seek shelter. The child is sick. We mean no harm. While the warriors stood firm, one of them shifted slightly, intrigued by the scout's words. Seizing the opportunity, the scout pointed to the child in their arms, emphasizing the urgency of the situation. The stability of their voice masked the panic lurking within, reflecting their quick thinking under pressure. Simultaneously, they scanned the area for a potential diversion. Noticing a nearby fallen tree partially buried in snow, an idea sparked in their mind. With a swift movement, the scout leaned over and grabbed a small branch from it, tossing it into the snow beside one of the warriors while calling out to another nearby group. The noise drew attention away momentarily as curious heads turned. This clever tactic bought them precious seconds. As some Sioux turned to investigate, the scout shifted closer to them and softly explained how they were merely travelers caught in perilous weather. The shift in focus allowed just enough room for the scout to maneuver toward a safer path with the pony rider still cradled securely in their arms. Their wits had gained a small advantage against overwhelming odds. With the Sioux war party momentarily distracted, the scout seized the opportunity to find a new path. They carefully assessed their surroundings, noting the dense thicket of trees to their left that could provide cover but also posed risks of entrapment in the snow. To the right lay an open area, but it was exposed and could easily draw attention back from the warriors. The scout weighed their options quickly, knowing they had to act decisively. Choosing the thicket, the scout began to move cautiously, ducking under low branches and maneuvering through thick brush while cradling the fevered pony rider tightly against them. The child's small frame felt fragile in their arms, and every step had to be deliberate to avoid stumbling in the deep snow. They whispered words of encouragement to keep the rider calm, reminding them that help was near. As they navigated through the trees, the scout spotted a small rise ahead, a potential vantage point that could lead them out of sight from the Sioux. With renewed determination, they climbed up carefully, mindful of their footing on the slippery snowpack. From this higher position, they could see a narrow path winding through an opening in the woods that led toward safety. With one last glance back at the Sioux warriors who were now searching for them again, the scout took a deep breath and headed down the slope toward that promising path, hoping it would lead them away from danger and toward warmth and shelter. At last, the scout and the fevered pony rider stumbled into a small, weathered hut nestled among the trees, its walls offering a refuge from the biting cold. As they crossed the threshold, relief washed over the scout, the warmth inside enveloping them like a comforting embrace. The flickering light from a small fire cast dancing shadows on the walls, illuminating the weary faces of both the scout and the child. Gently setting the pony rider down on a straw-stuffed mattress, the scout felt a wave of gratitude. They took a moment to breathe deeply, their hearts still racing from the harrowing journey. The child's labored breathing eased as they sank into the soft bedding, comforted by the shelter and warmth. In that moment of safety, the scout reflected on their journey, the challenges faced, the quick thinking that had led them through perilous encounters, and the courage it took to protect someone so vulnerable. They felt proud not just of their own bravery but also of the trust shared between them and the child. It was a reminder that even in times of great danger, hope could prevail through teamwork and compassion. As snow continued to swirl outside, muffling sounds in the world beyond, the scout prepared to tend to the fevered rider. Together, they would face recovery, both physical and emotional, building their strength for whatever lay ahead, all while fostering a bond forged through adversity. As the flickering firelight cast warm shadows around the hut, the scout sat by the pony rider, reflecting on the journey they had shared. In that moment of sanctuary, it became clear that true bravery goes beyond mere physical courage, it is rooted in compassion and the willingness to help others in times of need. The scout thought of the challenges faced along the way, the howling winds, perilous encounters, and the weight of responsibility they felt holding the child. Bravery is often born from a sense of duty to protect those who cannot protect themselves, and in this case, it had been a lifeline for both the scout and the rider. The bond they formed amidst adversity served as a vivid reminder of how individuals can uplift one another in daunting moments. Each challenge transformed into an opportunity for teamwork, imparting strength when hope felt distant. The calm within the hut was a stark contrast to the turmoil outside, symbolizing resilience against harsh conditions. As the scout prepared a warm drink for the child, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. They understood now more than ever that acts of kindness, no matter how small, could spark courage and foster community. Together, they would recover and emerge stronger, bound not just by their shared trial but by an unyielding spirit of compassion that could face any storm.